All right, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome aboard to Ready Set Crypto on our Ready Set live session Wednesday. Today's the 18th of May. Welcome to the crash. Let's get through this together. How's everybody doing? Let us know where you're coming in from today. If you could, do us also a favor and go ahead and hit the thumbs up button to defeat the algorithm and let everybody know that we're on board and that we're going to be talking crypto for the next half hour here and taking your questions and addressing your concerns for today. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Let us know where you're coming in from.
Hello. We got.
All right, so we got DC Crypto Tiger. Digit by Barry, good afternoon from the Netherlands. All right, thanks, Vaude. John, I love the snow. And we got Andy coming in from Manchester, England. Manch. Let's see, we got Mig Checker from Germany. We got Rajith, how you doing? Good to see you. Aussie Slade coming in from is it the Gold Coast?
Mm-hmm.
And let's... Andronic from Mars. We got Jack from Darwin. All right. Let's see. Steve-O from Denver. We got Kuwait online. Jason hates this part of the show. Let's drag it out then. We got Nick from Florida. Jason, the only reason that we drag things out like this is to let everybody get a chance to come on board here so we can have critical mass and then we can get started. It just takes a couple of minutes. Your patience is appreciated. All right, we got Mondo from LA, and let's see, DC Crypto Tiger, East Coast of the good old USA. Crypto Cash was a millionaire. I think we all were, yeah. All right, everybody, how we doing? How you doing, Mav? What's going on in your world?
Hey, so yeah, just thank you for everyone for letting me take a little break, celebrating a birthday, going on a little holiday there. And I guess it's my fault that the market crashed because I did so. So apologies to all listening. But yeah, I think today's episode is going to be, I don't want to say very serious, but like hopefully it's one of the most important ones we've done because I think this is a very opportune time for us as people who've hopefully been in the space. But even if you're new to the space, this is a lesson that bears repeating over and over again is no matter how much conviction you have in a project, in a coin, whatever it's doing, it can still go to zero or, close enough that it doesn't really matter. And we've definitely seen that over the past week, unfortunately, for those, if anyone was a Luna holder, apologies or, my condolences. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I think there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger, and it's very deserved. I think definitely at this point in time, it's just it's another one of these examples of something that looks like it's a good investment. Seems like it's a pretty solid project all around. I mean, Terra just was on the cusp, if not broke into the top 10 a couple times. And for it to basically do a 99.9% drop is, I don't want to say unprecedented, but certainly to go from that sort of market cap, that sort of rank to, just absolute annihilation is just not something we want to see. It definitely looks bad on the industry, especially when this is a peg or, it's an algorithmic stablecoin is part of their ecosystem. So to see it depeg so much and for it to just basically drive into the dirt, it is, it draws a lot of criticisms. It draws a lot of negative attention to the space. I mean, you could easily argue that this is what capitulation looks like is when everybody's saying like, well, I knew it all along. That crypto stuff is a bunch of hokey pokey stuff. I'm not, I'm, once again, my convictions of being staunchly anti-crypto have been reaffirmed, and I can go back to harumphing in my armchair. I'm doing the best Warren Buffett impression I can. But you know what I mean? Like, it gives fuel to the fire of those who want to say crypto is a useless technology or it's never going anywhere. And it is really detracting from like all the things that are going on right now, all the progress that's being made from the regulation to the institutional to the technology side of things, it just unfortunately takes all the air out of the room. And this is a very similar situation we saw, coming out of 2017 into 2018 into 2019. The bottom of that market between 2017 and when eventually the market turned back around in 2020 into 2021, especially. The bottom of that market, Bitcoin's bottom was 3,900 on December 14th, 2018. So about a year or so after it had, run up to almost 20K and then came screaming back down. And we just had, a couple year bear market with crypto there. But I think the lesson in that is like, what were we thinking December 14th, 2018? Were we thinking like, this is the bottom of the market, crypto's done for, this is an opportunity, or this is this is just the crypto's failed. Bitcoin was a fraud this whole time or whatever. No, it goes through these periods like this. It goes through these cycles. And maybe something I do to help better illustrate this is do a little bit of screen share here. So this is today's market, this is the performance of the last month. And obviously, seeing green is pretty much non-existent unless you're counting the stable coins. Like it is an absolute bloodbath. But at the same time, getting to the topic of today's stream, when we look at coins that, so this is a tool called Cryptorank.io. And if you hit the ATH or all-time high little filter here, you can start to see where coins are versus their all-time high. This is really interesting if you're like getting into something maybe after it's peaked a little bit and saying like, okay, what would the percent increase it would need to do in order to get back to its all-time high? Am I buying this at a discount, or am I buying something that's going lower? As to quote Doc, as he often talks about. The interesting part about this is if we filter percent from all-time high, we can very quickly get to the negative 100% ones. And none of these are really projects, or they're meme Inu, something that never stood a chance. But it's when we go a couple pages forward into this that things get kind of interesting. And hopefully you can see this on the stream. Here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit better. There we go. But yeah, as we start to go through these, which are negative 100%, and we'll get into like the 99.9% ones, very quickly we see that Terra is not alone in this sort of story or repeating narrative. There are projects here that we've talked about on this stream before, not that long ago. Certainly, I think Nerve was one of them. Go forward a page here. So we're still in the 99% ones, but like, this is something we see over. Bados was one I remember talking about in 2017. IoT chain, another one. This plays out over and over again. And I think the key takeaway here is that if we look down here, there is 57 pages of these. But even if we go forward multiple pages here, we're still in the 99% one. We're halfway through the list here. We're still in the negative 90%. Keep going. We're still in negative 90% territory. Not great, as far as I'm concerned, to be, to have over half of the assets represented on this platform to be basically worthless or so far down from their all-time high that they're just under a mountain of there's no realistic possibility of them recovering from there. So there's this notion in the crypto space that you can, buy like Terra where it is right now today. And, it's fractions of a cent, and you're able to even if it only goes up to $1, well, you still made a lot, but like, there is no realistic possibility, I think, at this point of Terra recovering to certainly its all-time high, but even to something that is, in line with being, maybe it will get to a negative 90% from all-time high point. And people will say like, all right, well, that's okay. But I think the lesson here is like, we should not put all of our eggs into one basket, especially as it relates to crypto. And when you're talking about hodling onto something, generally that only works for the very large caps. Terra is kind of an exception in this, but when it comes to these smaller coins, hodling is the worst possible thing you can do. because more often than not, you are, it's not going anywhere. It's only going down. And, I want to be realistic with you about this. Like, we do our best to try to sift through this massive hay pile to find some of those needles. But more often than not in crypto, it's just not going to work out. Or even it's a project that does well for a while, like Terra did, and then it just completely capsizes. And that's just a story that's going to continue to play out over time. However, that being said, there is still the positive side of things. Even if it's only 5% of projects that truly make it into the top 100, truly make it into the top 10. Yeah, that's a fraction of the total crypto market. And that's why we have to stay away from being tribalistic on things. Another coin we recently saw, not quite take such a huge dip as Terra, but certainly took it in the shorts a little bit, was the Crypto.com one, Kronos. And, I was not an advocate of Kronos or of Crypto.com, but I could see what they're doing. They're clearly spending lots and lots of money. I think somewhere I read that they spent over $1 billion on marketing. Very impressive stuff. They've got, a great name. They've got a pretty impressive product. They're basically the only card available to our friends over in the EU or Australia as far as being able to spend crypto. They had a lot of things going for them. And then they come out with these just insane policies of, hey, well, we're basically getting rid of staking and give us a $40,000 basically interest-free loan to have our card so you can have a $25 monthly spend cap or rewards cap. It was just asinine. It was completely a disparaging of their customers, and they were rightly pissed. So obviously the coin sold off. And these were people that were very intent on CRO because you had to stake the token in order to have the card, right? And so they're locked into this and they're basically forced to just watch their portfolio evaporate as, eventually they turned the ship around. They came back with some of the changes that they made, but the damage had already been done. And I think this is just another example of how we want to believe in projects. We want to believe what crypto is doing, but just a lot of times it just doesn't work out. And that's why it's so important to stay diversified and stay as emotionless as possible as it relates to these assets, which again are just assets. I know that there's a sense of project or community or team or whatever behind a lot of these things. And it's awesome to be, in something that you care about, but you have to detach that away from the monetary, the investing side of things, because otherwise you're going to get too attached to something and you're just going to keep watching it go down and down and down. And let me tell you, more often than not, as we just looked at, that chart or, the list of negative 99s, it generally doesn't get better. So just try to stay as apathetic as possible as to, the fates of some of these projects. They can have the best white paper. They can be making the biggest promises, but it just doesn't always work out. So just be discerning as possible as it relates to this. Am I saying that Crypto.com's, Kronos or Terra are a bad investment right now? No, not necessarily. They are very risky as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they could turn around, but I think that is going to be a very big exception to the norm. It's generally the case that they just are not going to get back up to where they were. So just always bear that in mind and make the sort of decisions that reflect that. And I think you'll be happier for it. If you come at this space as a little bit more pessimistic, at least as it relates to the investments, you can still be very, excited about the technology and what crypto stands for. But as it relates to the investments, try to be as dispassionate, as neutral as possible. And I think you'll be better off for it. So best of luck. And again, condolences to those who were unfortunately caught up in the Terra or the Crypto.com or any of these coins. If you've seen your portfolio, if you've seen an asset that you're holding on to dip as bad as that has, it sucks. There's no sugarcoating that. But hopefully take that as a lesson so you don't see it repeat. And yeah, I think you'll be better off for it. So that's my spiel for today. Hopefully we see things, I don't know. There's a lot of negativity in the market right now, but for those of us that can see that as an opportunity, I think we're doing okay. I think we're doing as well as we can. We're just holding on and looking for opportunities. And again, just trying to not get too fearful, not get too greedy, trying to stay somewhere in the middle. And I think that's the best we can do. Doc, what do you think?
I think history repeats, and sometimes it rhymes as well too. If you guys think about going back 25 years ago, what was going on at the time? We had a huge bubble going on with the NASDAQ. Huge. I mean, because the internet started to be commercialized around 1994. And so very quickly, people started to layer applications and uses for that based on a .com address. And there was no business based on that. I was part of one of these companies as well too. It was like, hey, let's just stir up the money and we'll figure out a way to make money on this later on. And that's what everybody did. And so it was a very similar business cycle, if you will. It wasn't based on blockchain, obviously, but it was based on technology that was somewhat immature, number one. And number two, it was based on things that had not yet crossed over into the chasm of what we call the early majority. So it was not commercially viable yet. Most of those NASDAQ-based companies that were based on the .com bubble had no way of making money yet. Do you guys realize that even Amazon.com did not go cash flow positive until I think it was 2015? So it literally took them 15 years of investing in their infrastructure before they came around to it. So to me, I'm just seeing the whole thing. This is like an echo boom of 25 years ago. It's exactly the same thing. And what happened was we had a 15 years where all that NASDAQ was in a trough and when nothing was going on. And what happened during that period is it got shaken out. All of the projects that did have commercial worth did thrive. Apple somehow thrived through that. Microsoft somehow thrived through that, as well as all the other companies. I mean, you guys don't need a history lesson in this, but I think the same thing is happening now and will continue to happen going forward. Now, there's a couple of things I want to share with you guys here, just in terms of the macro stuff. So let me pull this over to a chart. And this is a concern of mine. The NASDAQ, or this is the 10-year note. This is the 10-year note. And this is based on interest rates. So if you see a 3.0, that's 3%. So what we've been seeing is the 10-year note has been going higher and higher in interest rates because the Fed has said, yep, we're going to keep raising rates. We're going to keep raising rates. Well, problem is they're somewhere around here right now. And they only meet every 6 weeks. So they're way behind the curve. But what's happening here? For those of you that understand price action, you're starting to see a change in polarity to the downside. You're starting to see the price soften. And this is representing the future prospects of the economy as to whether or not it's strong or whether it's weak. So it's been strengthening lately. And what we're seeing right now is we're starting to see it turn. Today was a big day in the equities market. Walmart got destroyed yesterday. Target got absolutely crushed today. Lowe's, Home Depot, all of these other retailers are starting to soften up. And so my concern is that we've got a Fed which is completely disconnected with what's going on out there in the world. And they're not alone. All the other central banks are doing the same thing too. They're fighting the wrong war. They're fighting the war of interest rates where they should be looking forward. They should be taking advice from the bond market. And this is forever the problem that I have with this, because the Fed are bureaucrats, they are academics, and they are disconnected from reality. They don't look forward on these things. They look behind. They were reactive.
What'd you call Jerome Powell earlier?
I don't know. What did I call him? I don't remember.
In your newsletter, you called him the angel of death.
Oh, yeah, the angel of death. Well, I call him the angel of death because in the on the S&P, if I go over to the SPX here, I want to show you the 3 times that Jerome Powell has been speaking lately. And so there's 3 times here. Here was the first time. we had a nice little rally before that point. Jerome Powell says, yeah, we're going to be raising rates and we can't wait to do that. Okay, so the second time Jerome Powell talked was right there. He raised rates, and then the market just dumped 10% over the next 3 or 4 days. That's a big move when you're talking about $30 trillion market. And then yesterday he talked again, and he's like, yep, we can't wait to raise rates again. And here we go today. So today we're down over 4% on the S&P. Again, that's a huge, huge market. And what we're seeing also is that crypto is now kind of tying itself. And what I talked about with that 25-year history is happening right now. So let's get rid of this stuff here. This is the NASDAQ. Again, this is the NASDAQ 100. And it's really showing about the same chart as crypto. And so crypto is being lumped in with the NASDAQ. And for better or for worse, it's being tagged as crypto is being tagged as another risk asset, tech-based asset. Okay, so enough of that stuff. Let's go over to crypto. Let's look at Bitcoin to begin with. Bitcoin is in what we call a bear flag. So this was the little crash that we had because of Terra, the Terra crash, and we saw at least initial capitulation here. But to me, this is a bear flag. So unless this is able to trade above 32, this is going to consolidate at such time until it's ready to break down. Now we could be looking at potential swing trade resistance all the way back here at 2017, 2018, right there. And that's 20,000, guys. You remember when this broke through that. Former resistance becomes new support. So are we going to see a move down to here? Maybe, and maybe even an undercut for that. So something else up. I think Aussie Slade was asking me where the support is for this. Let's go find that out on volume profile. So what I'm going to do is to come down here. Basically what we're seeing is there's a hole, there's a vacuum here between 28,000 and 20,000. So what I've said before is if it starts to break this area, it's gone. It's going to hit this very quickly. It's going to fill this area almost like an air pocket. Right? Have you ever been flying along in an airplane and all of a sudden you hit an air pocket and it's like you literally drop 500 feet in a couple of seconds? That's what it's going to feel like. So how that handles the 20,000 level is going to be interesting, because if it comes down to here and if it rebounds immediately as if you're touching your hand to a hot stove, then that's good, because what that means is that we've got a hell of a huge amount of demand down there. We have a huge buy wall. And it's eating up all the sell orders down there. Now, that may not be over yet. This could set up to a lower high, and then we'll take it one swing at a time when we get to that point. However, if it undercuts 20,000, that's not particularly good. And then to Slade's point here, I think we're going to have to come all the way down to 12,500 to get some support. So hopefully what we do see is right at 20,000, and I'm just making the assumption that at some point in the not too near future, we're going to make that test, and it's going to come on some kind of bad piece of news. And it's probably going to be related to the Fed, who's going to botch it again. But that's what I'm looking at right now. Is the next great opportunity for us is to have limit orders sitting under 20,000 and see if we can pick up some of that and maybe take it for a trade. Maybe take it for a trade. You don't have to necessarily stack sats. Let the market show you whether or not it wants to start trending higher. Okay, so with that, enough of the macro crap. Let me go over to some of the coins that you guys have asked for. Let's see if I can find them here. First one was Anchor. All right, so Anchor versus Tether. Let's see if we can find. All right. Well, guys, there's going to be no surprises here. There's nothing really that's going to be in an uptrend, I think, especially most of the common ones here. Just about everything is tied at the hip. So just about all these are going to be with the same kind of, like Thorchain. Let's see how they're doing. Well, we did have an aggressive buy on there, but we stopped out on that. Thorchain is currently in cash and back down to support, which is down here at about 3. So support is at 3, and below there it's at 82 cents. So you hope that it doesn't, again, you can see this through volume profile. You can see where these holes are, these air pockets in the supply and demand. And you have to avoid those. Like if it goes below 3, you get out. No matter what, you get out because it's going to be a very quick trip down into the fractions of, a dollar at that point. Okay, next one along here is going to be QNT versus Tether. Downtrends everywhere, guys. There's nowhere to hide. There's no safe harbor in markets like this. This is the cleansing action that bear markets have. Okay, so Maker versus Tether, kind of the same thing here. We're not seeing much. There's really no pattern here, but this is still a downtrend. What you can do on this is you can set up your trend lines. Use trend lines, guys. This is a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. If it breaks the trend line, and if it starts to break above recent highs, wait for the next pullback, and there's your entry. There is your entry right there. Or you can wait until it makes a higher high and confirms for you. You're going to lose some edge in there, but it's a more conservative way to enter. Wait until things move higher. And if you need help understanding whether something is moving higher or lower, go over to your Heiken Ashi candles. Go to Heiken Ashi candles and get 2 green candles in a row on the weekly chart. And then chances are you might be moving higher. If you don't want to read price action, use whatever crutch necessary to do that. Okay, I've blathered on for far too long here, guys, so I'm going to bring it back to the middle. See if there's any final questions here, and bid you adieu for the day. Somebody was asking for a technical analysis on Luna. I don't know if my chart goes down that far.
Oof. Too soon, yeah.
Yeah, too soon. Can I analyze Hex? Let me take a look. Let me see if I can find it. Hex is on one of these Uniswaps. Okay, so yeah, let me bring this over here. Okay, so this is Hex, and this is on some kind of Uniswap right now. The support is down here at about 10 cents. It's about 10 cents. Let me take this off of the Heiken Ashis because it does sometimes distort things a little bit. Yeah, so it's right down to 10 cents. This is a weekly chart. If it drops below 10 cents, you do not have a market, right? So there's nothing down below here but just pain and agony. If it drops below 10 cents, again, what you got to do, set up your trend lines. Your trend lines are a filter for you. Don't trade anything below this trend line. Wait till it gets above the trend line. Wait till it starts making higher highs and higher lows. Gold. I'm not sure if you're looking at the coin here. There's really nothing to look at with this one. This one is just getting crushed. You're seeing a little bit of movement here, but that's just noise. Okay, quickly, let me just do 2 more and then we'll send you on your way, guys. Because otherwise we'll be here all night looking at charts moving down, which is not one of my favorite things to do. We will get to a point here fairly soon where we're going to be at a balance point, and we may be looking at accumulation. We're not there yet. So I'd be very skeptical about any kind of rally at this point. Okay, so you're below the trend line, so stay out of this one until you get above the trend line. Okay, one last one, GLMR. Okay, I'm going to be saying the same thing again here. Stay out of this one until it gets above the trend line. Let it keep on. What is low can go lower unless your ticker is Luna. What is low can go lower. All right, guys. That's all we got for today. Matt, have you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, definitely with the state of today's market, I think people are feeling emotions. And so I want to make sure that I end on a note that hopefully resonates with everybody. Because, yeah, if you go around social media right now, if you look at Reddit, if you look at Twitter, you look at Quora, wherever, you're going to see people asking the question of like, is it a good time to buy Bitcoin? And I kind of had some fun and went back. We've been running our Omnia newsletter now for, I think, like 3 years at this point. And or maybe 4. I don't know. It's been a while. We've definitely seen some market moves like this before. So I've definitely spoken to this before. And so I went back over 2 years to June 20th, 2020, when the price of Bitcoin was 9.3, at 9,300. And I wrote that to that question of when is the right time to buy Bitcoin, or is it the right time to buy Bitcoin? I wrote, the perfect time to buy Bitcoin is always now. Once you understand the reason for Bitcoin, it's a no-brainer. Almost 2 years later, things haven't changed. And the reasons haven't changed for Bitcoin because the design of it hasn't changed. And that's because the fundamentals of Bitcoin are still the same. Bitcoin's about giving you power over censorship and monetary inflation. And yes, there's always a better price to buy it at. But at the same time, I think we are in a space, in a time where things are going to be tumultuous. As Doc mentioned, we're going to be subject to the whims of central banks and sovereign currencies and things like that. It is a war right now, as far as I'm concerned, for the future of things. But that's aside from the fact that like all we can do in this moment is try to make the best decisions we can, as I said earlier, as emotionless or as objective as possible. What I want you to do is anytime you find yourself being like, oh, this is crypto is done for, or I'm scared, or this, or once you're in that sort of like fear state, try to catch yourself and say, well, actually, this doesn't make sense. I know that this is here to say it's going to change, obviously, but crypto's not going anywhere. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. And on the same token, like whenever you find yourself being like, wow, I'm such a genius, market's going up, I'm making money, I can't be wrong or whatever. As we looked at earlier in the stream, yes, you can. You can be wrong very much over and over again. So try to catch yourself when you're going to either side of that spectrum. Try to stay in the middle as much as possible, and you'll be able to see things a lot more clearly as a result. People are asking if I could give recommendations for like Terra alternatives in terms of stable coins to consider. I think the best choice would be to consider a basket of stable coins to do that. There are plenty of places now that will give you some yield just to hold stable coins. So that's an option while you're maybe waiting for a lower buy point on Bitcoin. Totally valid. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket, and find different ways to have those stable coins collateralized. The problem with Terra was that it was algorithmically driven, which is how it was taken advantage of. There are different types of stable coins out there, even though they're trying to do the same thing, basically. So consider like USDC, consider True USD, consider DAI, consider a whole basket of them. I think there's a lot of different ways we can try to protect ourselves from the uncertainty of the future and the tumultuous nature of the crypto markets. But regardless, if you're in this for the long run, you've got to have conviction to say, hey, I'm not going to get too fearful. I'm not going to get too greedy. I'm in this for the long haul. And that means staying as much as you can in the middle of the road. So anyways, that's my point for today. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're taking today in stride as much as possible. And hopefully you're looking towards the future, because that's what's got us repeatedly through times like these. It's just continue to look ahead, try to see where things are going. Don't get so caught in the moment. Just try to use it as leverage to say, well, what if it goes down? What if it goes up? Where things could possibly go from here. And obviously use things like technical analysis as Doc teaches it, which is all about kind of seeing through the noise and using price as an indicator as to what's happening, using it as a decision-making tool, not a crystal ball. I want to stress that very well, but utilizing it as best as possible to make the most rational decisions as possible. Doc has been putting out some really excellent education recently over at ReadySetTrade. Our friend Checkmate has been putting out some really great stuff over at ReadySet.vision. He also is working with Glassnode. just yesterday, or I think it was earlier this week, he was getting quoted by like CNBC and Yahoo about some of his observations regarding Bitcoin's current state of things. So we're here to help you. This is what the ReadySet community is all about. This is what we've done for, as Doc mentioned, 4 years now. We try to cut through the noise and give you the no bullshit answer to what's happening, where are things going, and how you should respond as best as possible. And it starts with, just trying to take the emotion out of the equation and trying to, see things how they really are. So that's what we're about. And as always, thank you so much for being a part of this community, this channel. And we just appreciate you having you around. So we'll get through this together as best as possible. But anyways, hang in there, guys. Doc, you got anything else?
No, I just want to say adios, everybody. And we'll see you next weekend or
Cheers,
next
guys.
week. All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. See you around.